Hello, my name is Allison Eckerd, and I represent Regent University. Today, I will be presenting a paper entitled A Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare's Glance Through the Looking Glass. A Midsummer Night's Dream arguably remains the most famous Shakespearean play ever written. Accumulated research shows the fantastical comedy about four lovers discovering themselves lost in the wondrous wooden vale of fairies on a summer's evening finds itself chosen continually by theater companies, proving the most performed Shakespearean play in modernity. For over 400 years, A Midsummer Night's Dream has consistently captured audiences with its comedic plot, memorable quotes, and fanciful setting, forging an accessible connection between contemporary audiences and the bard. A Midsummer Night's Dream finds its following rooted in René Girard's theory of mimetic desire. The lure of theater lies in the playwright's ability to create a relatable story that speaks to the human condition, while simultaneously transporting viewers to another world, making them forget the bland and grotesque reality surrounding them. The audience longs for truth, revealed through entertainment. Through A Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare crafts a play that continually reiterates the reality of the human condition by showing how mimetic desire drives all human interaction and manifests in social situations. Spectators find themselves consistently drawn to A Midsummer Night's Dream due to René Girard's theory of mimetic desire, which outlines that all human interactions base themselves on imitating others' actions. However, due to the selfish nature of humanity, jealousy and competition influence a person's actions and create rivalry, affecting people's relationships in a given social situation. Richard Van Oort comments on how viewing Shakespeare's work through the framework of Girard's mimetic theory explicates the continual draw to his works. Girard interprets Shakespeare's greatness in explicitly anthropological rather than purely aesthetic terms. Shakespeare is great not because he taught us how to perceive the world aesthetically, but because discovering an otherwise non-obvious anthropological or sociological truth. If the social order is to survive, it needs to constrain the contagion of mimetic desire. So for Girard, Shakespeare is quite literally an anthropologist or sociologist. The idea that Shakespeare was a keen student of human behavior, a philosopher or anthropologist of sorts, is not new. Human beings are fundamentally aesthetic creatures. Shakespeare teaches us how to perceive and feel. There is no contradiction between the two conceptions of Shakespeare. Dramatist and anthropologist are one. The two are the same because poetry defines, indeed creates, humanity. We are homo aestheticus, not homo politicus. Ort's defense of Shakespeare's anthropological insights supports society's love for Shakespeare and therefore A Midsummer Night's Dream. The truth of mimetic desire resonates with playgoers as they recognize themselves in the characters and their desires. As revealed by many of Shakespeare's plays, the human reality of mimetic desire engages the viewer's mind and heart. However, often the masses prefer Shakespearean comedies to the tragedies due partially to society's innate need for catharsis. An exercise of compassion and empathy, catharsis grants individuals access to philosophical truths within the safety of the other who experiences the emotion. However, the wall blocking the reality of the emotion blurs depending on the extent of the given emotion. Anger, guilt, depression, and fear, all emotions often associated with the tragedies, sometimes encroach far more deeply into the subconscious than the emotions related to the comedies, such as happiness, contentment, and excitement. Transporting audience members to a world that uncovers happiness, joy, and excitement proves more beneficial to the playwright in his pocket. However, comedies based purely on positive emotions often remain too superficial for the average viewer. They do not offer the depth or the truth or the deeper understanding for the audience's satisfaction. They yearn for something with substance yet palatable. Shakespeare provides precisely what they are looking for in his comedies by utilizing mimetic desire, and A Midsummer Night's Dream relays a mimetic tale engaging for all. René Girard holds A Midsummer Night's Dream in high esteem. I regard A Midsummer Night's Dream as Shakespeare's first mature masterpiece, a veritable explosion of genius. Despite many critics' perception of the play as several loosely related tangled plots, in a knot together and somehow finding themselves straightened out into a happy, albeit confusing ending, Girard supposes that the bard had more in mind than the superficial reading. At first glance, Shakespeare seems to have invented the caprices of his lovers at random, with no purpose in mind, but their genius for desiring at cross purposes is too infallible to result from chance. The Midsummer Night is mimetic, but in a more complex manner than the plots of earlier works. Instead of a single relationship, we have an entangled web of mimetic interaction, a long escalation of rivalry so fierce at the climax that it turns to violent chaos. As soon as the whole structure hits the bottom, however, it bounces back towards the light and a happy ending is in sight. When reading the play under the framework of Gerard's mimetic theory, all desires presented in A Midsummer Night's Dream transform from a discordant, turbulent mess into a cohesive, balanced whole. The play achieves equilibrium and the characters join in harmony. Critics often misunderstand Shakespeare's actual meaning of the play when they disregard Gerard's mimetic framework, leading audiences with their mistaken reading and confusion as to their instinctual attraction to it. In the age of postmodern society, empirical evidence and aesthetic beauty find themselves at odds in most minds. Tales of fantasy remain significant sources of entertainment, but cannot offer truthful insights into the modern predicament. Modern science requires empirical, measurable proof of all insights, scorning the profound philosophical messages that reveal themselves through beauty, such as theater and art. Promoting his mimetic theory in the postmodern age, Gerard remained wary of emphasizing Oberon, Puck, and the love potion too much. Scientific minds of the day would dismiss the legitimacy of the mimetic theory and Gerard's anthropological observations if he associated the fantastical elements of fairy tales, such as fairies and love potions, as a serious contributor to the revelation of scientific proof. Already fighting against those who doubted that the fictional classics could prove any profound observable truth about humanity, Gerard downplayed any fantastical elements of Shakespeare's works. He proposed, "When we read the play in its own mimetic light, we can dispense with the love potion and account for every incident satisfactorily. The play then ceases to be a mosaic of heterogeneous themes that the critics have always portrayed. It becomes a single dynamic process, embracing all three subplots and constantly worsening formlessness, suddenly turning back into orderly form. This is the work in which mimetic desire that governs human relations in Shakespeare was fully mastered for the first time and dramatized as a global system, the source of all social integration as well as disintegration. Behind its frivolous appearance, this play constitutes a stupendous theory, not only of the conflictual side of mimesis, but of its cohesive power, which manifests itself as ritual and theater." Gerard strongly argued against the emphasis placed on Puck's love potion, defining it as a mere fantastical element fitting within the enchanting setting of the play. Without a mimetic reading, the play's happy ending results from magic and make-believe, and the tools aiding the viewer's understanding of the play vanish. The play remains a fantasy, and the critics tempt themselves with disregard for its value and insights into the human condition. This would not satisfy the viewer's need for truth, as magic does not reflect a recognizable reality. Therefore, Gerard downplays the importance of the love potion, Puck and Oberon, so his mimetic theory can critically attach itself to the play's significance, creating a completely satisfying tale for viewers and critics alike. However, a complete abandonment of the love potion's importance and Puck and Oberon's involvement in the story provide an incorrect reading of Shakespeare's plot. Shakespeare, a master storyteller, used the symbolic fairy tale tropes as a catalyst for the mimetic desire that weaves throughout the story. Note that the love potion symbolizes catalytic fuel for mimetic desire in everyday life. The catalysts to an individual's mimetic rivalry differ in each unique situation. For some, the impeding march of time influences the speed of one's motivations in achieving mimetic success. For others, an unexpected incident may cause profound meditation of one's actions. Shakespeare, composing a magical setting that must fit within the typical audience's relatively short attention span, must employ the love potion symbol while creating his dreamy tale. Gerard understands this as he concludes, "The magical potion of Puck solves this problem. With fairies at his disposal, there is little that a smart playwright cannot do." Therefore, the love potion remains an undercurrent, bubbling beneath the surface. When the time comes, Shakespeare will reawaken this catalyst and display the established continual mimetic loop. Shakespeare needed to implement a tangible yet fantastical symbol for the audience's realization of the mimetic process, one that could be utilized quickly and several times throughout the short plot. The love potion enables even the most superficial viewers admission into his mirrored world, revealing personalized truth evident in humanity. Gerard reveals Shakespeare's reluctance in the revelation of the love potion's completely obvious symbolic stand-in. Shakespeare had good reason, it seems, to refrain from making the most flippant aspects of his play too conspicuous. It is probable that A Midsummer Night's Dream was written for a princely wedding at the court of Elizabeth. Inconsistency does not mix well with a festive matrimonial mood. Shakespeare had to be careful. His comedy had to seem innocuous and conventional in the eyes of conservative courtiers. At the same time, he knew there would be some very clever people in the audience and did not want to disappoint them. They expected him to be delightfully daring, scandalous, and witty. He attempted to write for both groups at the same time, in such a way that each group would find his play what suited its own taste and temperament. He probably succeeded with his contemporaries, but sadly failed with posterity. The comic dimension of the play is inseparable from its mimetic substance and has never been recaptured. Therefore, Shakespeare skillfully hid mimetic desire under a tangled web of mimetic interplay and employed a love potion. Gerard sets the modern critic on the right track by explaining the love potion's employment in A Midsummer Night's Dream. However, how exactly does Gerard's mimetic theory reveal itself in A Midsummer Night's Dream? Shakespeare crafts a plot where the desired become desirable by another's desire for them. The four lovers produce the most obvious example. The play's central conflict presents itself in the first scene. Demetrius and Lysander find themselves in love with Hermia and vie for her attention, creating a love triangle. A love triangle establishes itself in popular culture by making romantic stories more intriguing. However, it finds its source in the idea of mimetic desire, as outlined by the article Mimetic Theory, Rivalry, Violence, Scapegoat. Mimetic desire persuasively argues that our desires are not autonomous, but actually copied from others. Desire is almost always triangular, not linear, and begins in the subject's relation to what Gerard calls the mediator or model, not the object of desire itself. The mediator is the source of the desire, both the obstacle and the rival. This triangle presents itself between Lysander, Demetrius, and Hermia. Both men desire Hermia because of the other desires her, and they remain in rivalry, as shown in their first interaction. Demetrius, relent, sweet Hermia, and Lysander, yield thy crazed title to my certain right. Lysander, you have her father's love, Demetrius. Let me have Hermia's. Do you marry him? In this case, the subject and mediator became interchangeable. Lysander models his love after Demetrius's love for Hermia, and Demetrius models his love after Lysander's love for Hermia. Hermia, the object of desire, remains relevant only as a prize to the rivalry. The most challenging part of understanding a mimetic relationship between Lysander and Demetrius lies in the human desire for organization. The viewer's wish for more background information generating an explanation for how this mess started. Who takes the role of the mediator, and who takes the role of the mimic? The audience cannot easily accept interchangeable mediators and mimics. As mentioned above, mimetic desire does not exist in a linear sequential order. Its triangular shape creates a simultaneous example and competitor. The mediator and mimic simultaneously react to each other's passions, creating a chaotic jumble of emotions, leading to an uneasy tension the audience must sit in. This works to the advantage of Shakespeare's play. Shakespeare establishes an environment of chaos that complements the conflicting emotions of his characters and aids in building dramatic tension throughout A Midsummer Night's Dream. Shakespeare need not dwell on setting the record straight, since the tension provided already aids the audience's engagement with the play. They hunger for the satisfaction of the denouement and remain committed until its completion. However, all things have their limits. Shakespeare knows the tolerance of his audience will not last long. They cannot remain in suspense forever without turning on him, so Shakespeare provides some prehistory introducing his second mimetic relationship. Helena, Hermia's best friend, who has fallen in love with Demetrius, reveals that mimetic rivalry has initially set up the current predicament through her soliloquy. For ere Demetrius looked on Hermia's eye, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine, and when this hail some heat from Hermia felt, so dissolved in the showers of oaths did melt. As Helena's soliloquy proves, a mimetic triangle has already formed between herself, Hermia, and Demetrius. Helena and Demetrius loved each other until Hermia, who Gerard argues has the same desires, feelings, and thinking habits as Helena due to their inextricable rearing, desired him for herself. Crucial to the story, the prehistory explains the mimetic systematic nature of all erotic shenanigans among the four lovers. The search for mimetic origin becomes momentarily sated, and Shakespeare reassures his audience that answers await for those who remain patient. Throughout the remainder of the play, mimetic rivalry continually influences the lovers' interactions in the forest. Shakespeare emphasizes the mimetic relationship between Lysander and Demetrius and Helena and Hermia, with a small amount of help from Oberon, Puck, and their love potion. At Oberon's order, Puck mistakenly pours some of the love juice onto Lysander's eyes, and he awakens madly in love with Helena, declaring, "And run through the fire I will for thy sweet sake. Transparent Helena, nature shows art that through thy bosom makes me see thy heart. Where is Demetrius? Oh, how fit a word is that vile name to perish on my sword." Despite the employment of the love potion, notice how Lysander's initial declaration of love for Helena directly threatens Demetrius. Lysander's concern depends more on overcoming his mimetic rival than in actually loving Helena. With enough time, Demetrius would shift his advances for Hermia to Helena once he registered Lysander's pursuit of her. Nevertheless, the plot must commence within a night, so Shakespeare employs his catalytic love potion again. Again, at Oberon's insistence, Puck rectifies his mistake by pouring love juice into Demetrius's eyes. After waking up with feelings for Helena, Demetrius argues with Lysander. "Demetrius, Lysander, keep thy Hermia, I will none. If I e'er loved her, all that love is gone, and my heart to her as a guest wise sojourned. And now to Helen is it home returned. There it is to remain." Lysander, "Helena, it is not so." Demetrius, "Disparage not the faith thou dost not know, lest to thy peril thou buy it dear." Demetrius, mimetically in love with Helena due to Lysander's love for her, competes with his rival by threatening his life away, similar to Lysander's initial claim. Girard explains the boys' mimetic relationship throughout the play. The first thing to observe is that even though the two boys are never in love with any girl for very long, both of them at any given time are always in love with the same girl. We can also observe great similarities in their two discourses, which remain unchanged when both of them shift from one girl to the other, except of course for the minor adjustments required by the fact that Helena is a tall blonde, whereas Hermia is short and dark-haired. Both the boys change their pursuit depending on the actions of the other, demonstrating a mimetic cycle for the audience's observation. Puck's love potion serves as a catalyst that speeds up the process and fits the play's narrative. The play seemingly diverges from Girard's mimetic theory towards the end. At Oberon's command, Puck employs one more round of love juice that satisfies Oberon's original intent. Demetrius awakens in view of Helena, and Lysander awakens in view of Hermia. Both men now desire two different objects. Will this not undo Shakespeare's entire mimetic process revealed to us? Not necessarily. In his mimetic theory, Girard proposes that humanity finds a scapegoat that alleviates the violence and suffering that mimesis demands in rivalry. Curtis Grunlier explains Girard's scapegoat mechanism in his article, The Promise of Mimetic Theory as an Interdisciplinary Paradigm for Christian Scholars. The contagion of mimetic rivalry erases differences that are the basis of social hierarchy. Without these and other curbs, rivalry can snowball to a crisis of runaway violence. But evidence of early religion also indicates that many human communities avoided annihilation through spontaneous discovery of what can be called in retrospect the scapegoat mechanism. An escalating rivalry threatens to swallow the community. One member marked by some sign of otherness, such as a disability, is singled out for blame. Suddenly, mimetically, all other members of the group direct their violence against this one who was cast out or killed. Just as suddenly, violence becomes a unanimity, which, in the hush that follows, feels like a miraculous deliverance by a power from beyond. Mimetic rivalry sedates itself when a sacrificial substitute takes its place. This substitute does not always necessitate a violent end, but merely alleviates the mimetic process. Once again, though symbolic, Oberon, Puck, and the love potion provide the key to Shakespeare's mimetic masterpiece. Lysander and Demetrius's mimetic relationship would surely end in blood without Oberon and Puck's continual meddling. Until this point, Shakespeare uses Puck and his love juice as a catalyst for the mimetic cycle. With insight from Oberon, it transforms into the boy's saving grace. Girard summarizes that Puck's final round of love juice creates a sacrificial substitution for the boy's violent desires. Lysander and Demetrius have turned into perfect doubles, equally intent on destroying the other. The scene is slightly but decisively distorted representation of what happens at this critical instant. We can see the victimage mechanism. We can see the function that it performs, but no one dies. The violence is gone. To be sure, the sacrificial mechanism is represented not as an automatic consequence of the mimetic crisis that it really is, but as the scapegoat's own initiative. Or rather, initiative of some other deity, here Oberon, who supervises Puck's activities. Lysander and Demetrius' mimetic rivalry would continue escalating on and on throughout the play if not given a sacrificial substitution. When devising the short and happy comedy of A Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare decidedly de-escalates the rising conflict by supplying a peaceful and succinct solution that parallels a substitution found in reality. The ingenuity and magnetic draw of A Midsummer Night's Dream lies in Shakespeare's successful employment and transformation of Puck, Oberon, and the love potion as symbolic counterparts to the scapegoat mechanism and mimetic catalyst. By expertly entangling the boys' mimetic relationship under Oberon, Puck, and the love potion's transfigured guise of the sacrificial substitute, Shakespeare weaves compact and joyful comedy, appealing to the masses. Gerard expounds on Shakespeare's genius. Through a reversal of true perspective already implicit in the initial scapegoat transference, the reconciled doubles attribute their reconciliation not to the mimetic effect to which they do not even perceive, but to the very victim whom they transfigure into being capable of saving as well as harming them. All mimetic desire has vanished, and in its stead, we have the dual action of Puck, first as a troublemaker and then as a savior. Lysander and Demetrius need not to continually escalate their rivalry to a violent end when Puck has provided a convenient escape route. Shakespeare neatly wraps up all loose ends while providing a truthful look at humanity and a positive alternative to the mimetic violence. Gerard summarizes, Shakespeare could have ended this Midsummer's Night in some other way. The ending he wrote is the closest possible approximation to the victimage mechanism, compatible with the non-violence of a comedy, and the closest to a tragic ending, and yet one that does not turn a comedy into a tragedy. A Midsummer Night's Dream popularity attributes itself to Shakespeare's uncanny ability in creation of a theatrical piece that entertainingly speaks to the human condition. Under the cover of magic and whimsy, Shakespeare reveals a world that parallels reality with its mimetic rivalry and innovative substitution of bewitching symbolism. Shakespeare formulates a tale that allows playgoers admission to a mirrored reality that concurrently suggests a realistic alternative to humanity's violent nature. A Midsummer Night's Dream presents applicable commentary on a fictional world that could influence reality. Thank you for your time.